Good morning, guys. This morning we are going to read Julius Caesar Act I. So pause the video. If you don't have your book with you, go get your copy of Julius Caesar because I want you to read along with me. And I'm just going to read it out loud and talk about anything that might be difficult to understand what's going on. If this is your first Shakespeare, sometimes you run into things you don't quite know what's going on. So we'll work through it together. And so Shakespeare plays are divided into 5 acts, and then each act is divided into scenes. I'm going to read all of Act 1 on this video, but each scene, in each scene, Shakespeare tells us where the scene happens. So if we look at the beginning of Act 1, Scene 1, it says they are in Rome, and they are just on a street. And enter Flavius, Marullus, and certain commoners. Now, if you get in an act, in a scene, and you're not sure who the characters are, if you go back a couple of pages before Act 1 begins, there's a list of all the people in the play. If you have the Dover edition like mine, it's on Roman numeral 9. It says dramatis personae, people of the drama. All right. And it's a list and it tells you who everyone is. So if you look down to Flavius and Marullus, it says they are tribunes. They're tribunes of the people. We just talked not long ago about the tribunes, the people who represent the common people, the plebeians. Okay, so that's who Flavius and Marullus are. And you've read plays before, I'm sure. It tells you who is speaking in each section. Sometimes they abbreviate it for space. So FLAV means Flavius. First com means first commoner, second commoner. Okay? Flavius says, "Hence, home, you idle creatures. Get you home. Is this a holiday? What? Know you not, being mechanical, you ought not walk upon a laboring day without the sign of your profession? Speak, what trade art thou?" You're just common workers. It says mechanic, class of mechanic or artisan. They're just artisans. And why are you walking around like this is a holiday? It's not a holiday. What are you doing? First commoner answers, "Why, sir, a carpenter. He's a carpenter." "Where is thy leather apron and thy rule? What dost thou with thy best apparel on? You, sir, what trade are you?" Another guy answers, "Truly, sir, in respect of a fine workman, I am but, as you would say, a cobbler." Cobbler is someone who makes shoes. But the footnote tells us a cobbler is also a joke because it means a bumbler, a botcher, somebody who's clumsy in their work. I'm a cobbler. I'm clumsy in my work. I also make shoes. "But what trade art thou? Ask me directly. I know you botch things, but what is your trade?" "A trade, sir, that I hope I may say with safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls." This is another bad pun because he mends shoe soles, but he says he mends men's souls. "What trade, thou knave, thou naughty knave, what trade?" "Nay, I beseech you, sir, be not out with me. Yet if you be out, sir, I can mend you." It's another joke. Be not out with me. Don't be upset with me. But it can also mean be not out, don't have worn out shoes. But if you do have worn out shoes, I can fix them because I'm a cobbler. This guy is full of puns. "What meanst thou by that? Mend me, thou saucy fellow." "Why, sir, cobble you." "Thou art a cobbler, art thou?" "Truly, sir, that I live by. Truly, sir, all that I live by is with the awl needle. I meddle with no tradesman's matters, nor women's matters, but with awl. I am indeed, sir, a surgeon to old shoes. When they are in great danger, I recover them. As proper men as ever trod upon neat's leather have gone upon my handiwork." "But wherefore art thou not in thy shop today? Why dost thou lead these men about the streets?" "Truly, sir, to wear out their shoes, to get myself into more work." Another joke. Why are you out on holiday leading these guys around? "Oh, so I can wear out their shoes, so I can make them more shoes and get more money." "But indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph." Marilla says, Wherefore rejoice? What conquest brings he home? What tributaries follow him to Rome, to grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels? You blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things. Oh, you hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome, knew you not Pompey? Many a time and oft have you climbed up to walls and battlements, to towers and windows, yea, to chimney tops, your infants in your arms, and there have set the livelong day with patient expectation to see great Pompey pass the streets of Rome. And when you saw his chariot but appear, have you not made a universal shout? That Tiber trembled underneath her banks to hear the replication of your sounds made in her concave shores? And do you now put on your best attire? And do you now call out a holiday? And do you now strew flowers in his way that comes in triumph over Pompey's blood? Be gone. Run to your houses, fall upon your knees, pray to the gods to intermit the plague that needs must light on this ingratitude. You know, Caesar's rival Pompey used to come out for him. And now Caesar is coming back and Pompey is dead. He hasn't killed Pompey, but he has led to Pompey's death. And he's triumphing over Pompey's family. And you're going to praise Caesar like you used to praise Pompey? The other tribune says, Go, good countrymen, and for this fault assemble all the poor men of your sort. Draw them to Tiber banks and weep your tears into the channel, till the lowest stream do kiss the most exalted shores of all. All right. Everyone, all the commoners leave, and the two tribunes talk to each other. See whether their basest metal be not moved. They vanish tongue-tied in their guiltiness. Go you down that way towards the Capitol. This way will I. Disrobe the images if you do find them decked with ceremonies. These people have gone around and put flowers, wreaths on all the statues of Caesar throughout the city. And the tribunes say, no way. We're going to go take them all down. Marillus says, may we do so? You know it is the feast of Lupercal. This is a holiday. I'll talk about that holiday in a minute. It is no matter. Let no images be hung with Caesar's trophies. I'll about and drive away the vulgar from the streets. So do you too, where you perceive them thick. These growing feathers plucked from Caesar's wing will make him fly an ordinary pitch. Who else would soar above the view of men and keep us all in servile fearfulness? You know, Caesar's got plenty of metaphorical feathers. He's flying high above us. We're going to pluck some of the feathers out of his wings and bring him down. We're going to strip these statues of all the wreaths and flowers that they've put on them. Okay, and then that's the end of scene one. Now, the tribunes mentioned that it's the Lupercal, the Feast of Lupercalia. So among other festivities on this day, they had a deal where young men would sort of strip down to loincloths and run through the streets. And they would have little wands, little sticks. All right. And the idea is, this is kind of weird. If they ran past and they tapped a woman with them, it would help her get pregnant. It would help her to have a baby. So if anybody was having trouble, fertility issues, they would put the women out there, and these Lupercalia runners would smack them lightly with their wands, and it would lead to them having a baby within the next year. And so in scene two, it says we go to a public place, and all the bigwigs of Rome are gathered there, and they're getting ready for the Lupercalia race. We see Caesar, his right-hand man Mark Antony, Calpurnia, who is Caesar's wife, Portia, who is the wife of Brutus, also in this list, Decius, Cicero, Cassius, Casca. Some of them we're going to meet in a minute. They're the upper crust of Rome. We're also going to see that they're going to be involved in the plot heavily. Okay, Caesar starts off the scene. Calpurnia, he's calling to his wife. Casca says, peace, ho, Caesar speaks. Everybody shut up. Caesar wants to say something. The music stops. Calpurnia, here, my lord. Stand you directly in Antonius's way when he doth run his course. Antonius? Caesar, my lord? Forget not in your speed, Antonius, to touch Calpurnia. For our elders say the barren, touched in this holy chase, shake off their sterile curse. Right? Calpurnia doesn't have any children. Mark Antony, my friend, you're running. Make sure to tap her with your wand because she wants a baby. He says, I shall remember. When Caesar says, do this, it is performed. Caesar says, sit on and leave no ceremony out. Begin the celebration. A soothsayer, a prophet, comes by and calls him, Caesar! Huh, who calls? Casca says, bid every noise be still. Peace yet again. Caesar wants to talk. Caesar says, who is it in the press that calls on me? I hear a tongue, shriller than all the music, cries Caesar. Speak. Caesar is turned to hear. The soothsayer says, beware the Ides of March. The Ides are the 15th. The 15th of every month was the Ides of that month. Beware the Ides of March. Caesar says, and he leaves. Caesar says, what man is that? Brutus says, a soothsayer bids you beware the Ides of March. Set him before me. Let me see his face. Fellow, come from among the throng. Look upon Caesar. What sayest thou to me now? Speak once again. Beware the Ides of March. He's a dreamer. Let us leave him. Pass. And they all walk away to see the race. But Brutus and Cassius stay behind and have a conversation. Cassius says, will you not go see the order of the course? You're going to go watch the race? Not I. I pray you do. I'm not gamesome. I'm not in the mood for sports. I do lack some part of that quick spirit that is in Antony. Let me not hinder, Cassius, your desires. I'll leave you. If you want to go, it's fine. I'm going to go home. Cassius says, Brutus, I do observe you now of late. I have not from your eyes that gentleness and show of love as I was wont to have. You bear too stubborn and too strange a hand over your friend that loves you. Oh, you don't seem as friendly to me lately, Brutus. We used to be friends. I don't feel like you're treating me like a friend anymore. Brutus says, Cassius, be not deceived. If I have veiled my look, I turn the trouble of my countenance merely upon myself. I've got inner troubles, Cassius. It's not you, it's me. Vexed I am of late with passions of some difference, conceptions only proper to myself, which give some soil perhaps to my behaviors. I'm distracted by things I'm thinking over, and maybe my distraction is coming out in my behavior. But let not therefore my good friends be grieved, among which number Cassius be you one, nor construe any further my neglect than that poor Brutus with himself at war forgets the show of love to other men. Cassius says, then Brutus, I have much mistook your passion, by means whereof this breast of mine hath buried thoughts of great value, worthy cogitations. I thought you didn't like me very much, Brutus. And because of that, I've been thinking some things over that I haven't shared with you. Let me share them with you now. He goes on, tell me, good Brutus, can you see your face? Brutus says, no, Cassius, for the eye sees not itself, but by reflection, by some other things. Can you look at your own face? No, not unless I see it reflected in something. Cassius says, 'tis just, and it is very much lamented, Brutus, that you have no such mirrors as will turn your hidden worthiness into your eye, that you might see your shadow. It's true, you can't see yourself except by reflection. And Brutus, I wish you had a mirror. He doesn't mean a real mirror. He means a metaphorical mirror, another person who might look at you and show you what kind of man you are. I have heard where many of the best respect in Rome, except immortal Caesar, speaking of Brutus and groaning underneath this age's yoke, have wished that noble Brutus had his eyes. I've heard people say Rome is in a sorry state. We are being oppressed by a tyrant, someone who's taking all the power. And many are saying, I wish Brutus could see his own worthiness to do something about this. Brutus says, into what dangers would you lead me, Cassius, that you would have me seek into myself for that which is not in me? Cassius says, therefore, good Brutus, be prepared to hear. And since you know you cannot see yourself so well as by reflection, I, your glass, will modestly discover to yourself that of yourself which you yet know not of. And be not jealous on me, gentle Brutus. Were I a common laugher, or did use to stale with ordinary oaths my love to every new protester? If you know that I do fawn on men and hug them hard, and after scandal them, or if you know that I profess myself in banqueting to all the rout, then hold me dangerous. Now remember who you're talking to, Brutus. Am I the common partying sort who buddies up to people and then just gives them the shaft and leaves them? I'm not that sort. You can trust me, Brutus. But then they hear a trumpet and they hear shouting. And Brutus says, what means this shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king. Cassius says, aye, do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so. He says, I would not, Cassius. Yet I love him well. But wherefore do you hold me here so long? What is it that you would impart to me? If it be aught toward the general good, set honor in one eye and death in the other, and I will look on both indifferently. What do you want, Cassius? If it's something that involves honor, then if you set honor on one side and death on the other, I will look on both the same. I will risk death if it's for honor, if it's honorable. For let the gods so speed me as I love the name of honor more than I fear death. Cassius says, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. I know that you are honorable so much as I know the look of your face. Well, honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I'd as lief not be as live to be in awe of such a thing as I myself. I was born free as Caesar, so were you. We both have fed as well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. For once, upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, Dearest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood, and swim to yonder point. Upon the word, accoutered as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So indeed he did. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside and stemming it with hearts of controversy. Once Caesar was out with me, and it was a stormy day, and Caesar said, hey, I dare you to swim across the Tiber with me. Cassius says, you're on, and they jump in. But ere we could arrive the point proposed, Caesar cried, help me, Cassius, or I sink. I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulder the old Anchises bear, so from the waves of Tiber did I the tired Caesar. And this man is now become a god. And Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but nod on him. You know, I had to save him. That day. Help me, Cassius. I had to drag him out of the Tiber. And now he is the most important man in Rome, and everybody loves him and reveres him and bows down to him, and I'm nothing. He had a fever when he was in Spain, and when the fit was on him, I did mark how he did shake. 'Tis true, this god did shake. His coward lips did from their color fly, and that same eye, whose bend doth awe the world, did lose his luster. I did hear him groan. Aye, and that tongue of his that bade the Romans mark him and write his speeches in their books, alas, it cried, give me some drink, Titinius, as a sick girl. Ye gods, it doth amaze me, a man of such a feeble temper should get the start of the majestic world and bear the palm alone. He was sick once in Spain, cried out like a little girl. And now he's the master of the world. What is he? What's so special about him? He's just a man. And then suddenly there's another shout. Brutus says, another general shout. I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar. Cassius says, why, man, he doth bestride the narrow world like a colossus, and we petty men walk under his huge legs and peep about to find ourselves dishonorable graves. He's like a statue, a huge statue, and everyone else is just running around under the statue's feet. That's what we're like now. Men at some time are masters of their fates. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves that we are underlings. It's not fate. It's not your horoscope. It's not astrology. It's not in our stars if we're nobodies. It's in ourselves. Brutus and Caesar. What should be in that Caesar? Why should that name be sounded more than yours? Write them together. Yours is as fair a name. Sound them. It doth become the mouth as well. Weigh them. It is as heavy. Conjure with them. Brutus will start a spirit as soon as Caesar. Now, in the names of all the gods at once, upon what meat this our Caesar feed that he has grown so great? Age, thou art shamed. Rome, thou hast lost the breed of noble bloods. When went there by an age since the great flood, but it was famed with more than with one man? When could they say till now that talked of Rome, that her wide walls encompassed but one man? Now is it Rome indeed, and room enough, when there is in it but only one man? Made a little pun because sometimes they pronounced Rome, room. Now is it room indeed, and room enough, when there is in it but one man only? Isn't there room in Rome for more than one great man? Why does he get everything? Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say there was a Brutus once that would have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as a king. You know, there was once a Brutus, your ancestor, Brutus, who drove out the final king when his son was such a complete rotter. We kind of wish we had one of those again. Brutus answers, this is quite a speech, and obviously Cassius is trying to stir up Brutus's emotions, right? We need to do something about it. And guess what, Brutus? You come from another Brutus that did do something about it. Brutus answers, that you do love me, I am nothing jealous. What you would work me to, I have some aim. I think I know what you're driving at, Cassius. How I have thought of this and of these times, I shall recount hereafter. For this present, I would not, so with love I might entreat you, be any further moved. We'll talk about this some more. Don't push me anymore right now. What you have said I will consider. What you have to say, I will with patience hear, and find a time both me to hear and answer such high things. Till then, my noble friend, chew upon this. Brutus had rather be a villager than to repute himself a son of Rome under these hard conditions as this time is like to lay upon us. I'd rather not even be Roman at all. I'd rather just live in a small village than be a Roman and live under the tyranny of one man. Cassius says, I am glad that my weak words have struck but this much show of fire from Brutus. The games are done. Caesar is returning. Cassius says, as they pass by, pluck Casca by the sleeve. After his sour fashion, tell you what hath preceded worthy note. When the crowd comes back, grab Casca. He's a good guy. Grab him. Ask what's happening. What was all this shouting about? So Caesar comes past, and all his train is following him. And Brutus says, I will do so. But look you, Cassius, the angry spot doth glow on Caesar's brow, and all the rest look like a chidden train. Calpurnia's cheek is pale, and Cicero looks with such ferret and such fiery eyes as we have seen him in the Capitol, being crossed in conference by some senators. What do you think, Cassius? Caesar looks angry, and everyone else looks pale and like they've been chewed out. Cassius says, Casca will tell us what the matter is. Okay, so the scene shifts, and now we're going to listen in on Caesar. Caesar and the train, what they're saying. Caesar calls out, Antonius! Caesar? Let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed men, and such as sleep o' nights. Yon Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. He sees Cassius and Brutus standing in there. He calls Mark Antony over. He says, I don't like the looks of men like that. I like fat, jolly, pleasant, contented men. Yon Cassius hath a lean and hungry look. He looks like he wants something. He looks like a man of action. He looks discontented and like he might be up to something, and I don't trust him. Antony says, fear him not, Caesar. He's not dangerous. He is a noble Roman and well given. Caesar says, would he were fatter. But I fear him not. Yet, if my name were liable to fear, I do not know the man I should avoid so soon as that spare Cassius. I don't fear him because I'm Caesar. I don't really fear. But if I did fear, that would be the guy I would fear. He reads too much. He is a great observer, and he looks quite through the deeds of men. He loves no plays, as thou dost, Antony. He hears no music. Seldom he smiles, and smiles in such a sort as if he mocked himself, and scorned his spirit that could be moved to smile at anything. Such men as he be never at heart's ease, whiles they behold a greater than themselves, and therefore are they very dangerous. I rather tell thee what is to be feared than what I fear, for always I am Caesar. Come on my right hand, for this ear is deaf, and tell me truly what thou thinkst of him. Notice this. Caesar just said, if I weren't great Caesar, if I weren't the superhero of Rome, that is the sort I might fear, but I'm above fear. Oh, Antony, come over on this side, because I'm deaf on the other side. Oh, the great Caesar has a fault? You're just mortal? You have a bad ear? Yes. The great Caesar is just mortal, but he's acting like he's not. Come over here. I'm a little deaf on this side. After you just said, I am the great Caesar and I fear nothing. Okay. They all move on, but they've grabbed Casca. Like Cassius said, they've grabbed Casca out of the train and they're going to ask him some questions. Casca says, you pulled me by the cloak. Would you speak to me? Brutus says, aye, Casca. Tell us what chanced today that Caesar looks so sad. Casca says, what? You were with him, were you not? Brutus said, I should not then ask Casca what had chanced. If I were there, I wouldn't be asking. Casca says, what? There was a crown offered him. And being offered him, he put it by with the back of his hand, thus. And then the people fell a-shouting. What was the second noise for? Why, for that too. They shouted thrice. What was the last cry for? Why, for that too. Was the crown offered him thrice? Aye, Mary was. And he put it by thrice, every time gentler than the other. And at every putting by, mine honest neighbor shouted. Who offered him the crown? Why, Antony. Tell us the manner of it, General Casca. I can as well be hanged as tell the manner of it. It was mere foolery. I did not mark it. I saw Mark Antony offer him a crown, yet 'twas not a crown neither. 'Twas one of those coronets. And as I told you, he put it by once. But for all that, to my thinking, he would fain have had it. Then he offered it to him again. Then he put it by again. But to my thinking, he was very loath to lay his fingers off it. And then he offered it a third time, and he put it third time by. And still as he refused, the rabblement hooted and clapped their chapped hands and threw up their sweaty nightcaps and uttered such a deal of stinking breath because Caesar refused the crown that it almost choked Caesar, for he swooned and fell down at it. And for my own part, I durst not laugh for fear of opening my lips and receiving that air. All the common people just hooted, all their bad breath just spilled out all over the place, all because Caesar refused the crown. But soft, I pray you, what? Did Caesar swoon? He faint? He fell down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless. 'Tis very like, he hath the falling sickness. In olden times, they called the epilepsy was the falling sickness. Epilepsy is a illness that causes you to have seizures, and you are just not conscious. And often people foam at the mouth, and it's very dangerous. And it comes upon them, and they'll just fall down. And they're saying that Caesar has it. And historically, there's evidence that Caesar had epilepsy. So Brutus says, 'tis very like he hath the falling sickness. Cassius says, no, Caesar hath it not. But you and I, and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness. And he means Caesar may have epilepsy, but the falling sickness, falling in favor, falling down on the ground before the feet of some great leader. We have the falling sickness because someone is being elevated so high above us. Casca says, I know not what you mean by that, but I am sure Caesar fell down. If the tag rag people did not clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theater, I am no true man. Brutus says, what said he when he came into himself? Mary, before he fell down, when he perceived the common herd was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me ope his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I might go to hell among the rogues. And so he fell. When he came to himself again, he said, if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, alas, good soul, and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less. Caesar could do anything. He could be obnoxious. He could insult them. It doesn't matter. They love him. They'll go for anything he does. Brutus says, and after that he came thus sad away? Aye. Did Cicero say anything? Aye. He spoke Greek. To what effect? Nay, and I tell you that, I'll ne'er look you in the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads. But for mine own part, it was Greek to me. Obviously, Caesar said something to the effect of, nice show, Caesar. I know you really do want the crown. You're just pretending not to want it to see how the crowd will react, to see if they would actually crown you. It was Greek to me. I could tell you more news. Marillus and Flavius, for pulling scarves off Caesar's images, are put to silence, which means dismissed or executed. At the very worst, those 2 tribunes from scene 1 have been fired. At the worst, they've been executed. Just for pulling all the wreaths and crowns off the statues of Caesar. Fare you well. There was more foolery yet, if I could remember it. Cassius asks him, will you sup with me tonight, Casca? No, I'm promised 4th. I'm busy. Got another engagement. Will you dine with me tomorrow? Aye, if I be alive and your mind hold and your dinner worth the eating. Good, I will expect you. Do so. Farewell both. And Casca leaves. Brutus says, what a blunt fellow is this grown to be. He was quick mettle when he went to school. So is he now, Cassius answers, so is he now in execution of any bold and noble enterprise. However, he puts on this tardy form, this rudeness is a sauce to his good wit, which gives men's stomach to digest his words with better appetite. And so it is. For this time I will leave you. Tomorrow, if you please to speak with me, I will come home to you, or if you will, come home to me, and I will wait for you. I will do so. Till then, think of the world. Well, Brutus, and Brutus leaves. Cassius is now talking to himself. Well, Brutus, thou art noble. Yet I see thy honorable metal may be wrought from that it is disposed. Therefore it is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes. For who so firm that cannot be seduced? You're a good guy, Brutus. But I think I can persuade you to do what I want to do. Caesar doth bear me hard, but he loves Brutus. If I were Brutus now and he were Cassius, he should not humor me. I will this night in several hands in at his windows throw, as if they came from several citizens, writings, all tending to the great opinion that Rome holds of his name, wherein obscurely Caesar's ambition shall be glanced at. And after this, let Caesar seat him sure, for we will shake him, or worse days endure. Cassius is going to ask various people to write notes to Brutus, saying things like, have you noticed how strong and powerful Caesar is getting? Do you remember your ancestor Brutus who drove out the kings? And sort of insinuate that maybe Brutus needs to do something about this. Cassius is behind it all, but it's going to look like various people have all got the same idea, and they're just going to toss notes in through a window. Put them on his porch. Put them places where he will find them, and he'll think that all of Rome wants him to do something. It's Cassius's plan. Okay, now, new scene. We shift to a street. It says there is thunder and lightning. It's a storm. Casca comes from one side and Cicero comes from the other, and they meet on the street. And Cicero says, "Good even, Casca. Brought you Caesar home? Why are you breathless and why stare you so? Have you just escorted Caesar home? And what's up?" Upset. Casca says, "Are you not moved when all the sway of the earth shakes like a thing unfirm?" "Ah, Cicero, I have seen tempests, when the scolding winds have rived the knotty oaks, and I have seen the ambitious ocean swell and rage and foam to be exalted with the threatening clouds. But never till tonight, never till now did I go through a tempest dropping fire. I've seen bad storms, but I'm telling you, this is a seriously bad storm, Cicero, and I have seen balls of fire drop out of heaven during this storm. Either there is a civil strife in heaven, or else the world, too saucy with the gods, incenses them to send destruction." This means something. Either the gods are fighting, or they're sending destruction on the earth. I don't know what's going on. Cicero says, "Why? Saw you anything more wonderful? What, you saw fire drop out of heaven? Did you see something else?" Casca says, "A common slave, you know him well by sight, held up his left hand, which did flame and burn like 20 torches joined, and yet his hand, not sensible of fire, remained unscorched." I saw a slave, his hand was on fire. It was one of those on fire but not burning episodes. Besides, I had not since put up my sword. Against the Capitol, I met a lion who glazed upon me and went surly by without annoying me. And there were drawn up on a heap 100 ghastly women transformed with their fear, who swore they saw men all in fire walk up and down the streets. Ghostly, fiery spirits walking the streets. And yesterday, the bird of the night, the owl, did sit even at noonday upon the marketplace, hooting and shrieking. Owls have always been seen as omens of some sort, usually bad. When these prodigies do so conjointly meet, let not men say, these are their reasons, they're natural. When so many weird things happen at the same time, I don't want people to try to explain them away. It means something. For I believe they are portentous things upon the climate that they point upon. Cicero says, "Indeed, it is a strange disposed time, but men may construe things after their fashion, clean from the purpose of the things themselves." Yeah, that's strange, Casca, but people do misinterpret things like this sometimes. "Comes Caesar to the Capitol tomorrow?" "He doth, for he did bid Antonius send word to you that he would be there tomorrow." "Good night then, Casca. This disturbed sky is not to walk in." "Farewell, Cicero." Cicero leaves. Cicero leaves and Cassius walks in. Cassius, "Who's there?" It's dark, it's stormy, they can't really tell. "A Roman." "Casca, by your voice." "Your ear is good, Cassius." "What night is this?" "A very pleasing night to honest men." "Who ever knew the heavens menace so?" "Those that have known the earth so full of faults. For my part, I have walked about the streets, submitting me unto the perilous night, and thus embraced. I put up my cape. I just welcomed the storm. Casca, as you see, I've bared my bosom to the thunderstone. And when the cross blue lightning seemed to open the breast of heaven, I did present myself, even in the aim and very flash of it." Casca says, "But wherefore did you so much tempt the heavens? It is the part of men to fear and tremble when the most mighty gods send tokens by such dreadful heralds to astonish us." "You are dull, Casca, and those sparks of life that should be in a Roman you do want, or else you use not. You look pale and gaze and put on fear and cast yourself in wonder to see the strange impatience of the heavens. But if you would consider the true cause, why all these fires, why all these gliding ghosts, why birds and beasts from quality and kind, why old men fool and children calculate, why all these things change from their ordinance, their natures and preformed faculties, to monstrous quality, why, you shall find that heaven hath infused them with these spirits to make them instruments of fear and warning unto some monstrous state." If you really ask the right questions, Casca, you would see that these are portents saying the gods don't like the state that Rome is in. The gods don't like the fact that one man is getting all the power. The gods are telling us to do something about it. Now, could I, Casca, name to thee a man most like this dreadful night? Lightens, opens graves, and roars as doth the lion in the Capitol? A man no mightier than thyself or me in personal action, yet prodigious grown and fearful, as these strange eruptions are. Lions and powerful prodigies and omens, they're like a particular powerful man who's really getting too big for his britches in Rome. Casca says, "'Tis Caesar that you mean, is it not, Cassius?" Let it be who it is. For Romans now have thews and limbs like to their ancestors. But woe the while, our fathers' minds are dead, and we are governed with our mother's spirits. Our yoke and sufferance shows us womanish. You know, we have the same muscles and bodies as our ancestors that threw out kings, but we don't have our fathers' spirits and courage. We have our mothers. We're sissies. Casca says, indeed, they say the senators tomorrow mean to establish Caesar as a king, and he shall wear his crown by sea and land in every place save here in Italy. I know where I will wear this dagger then. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. Cassius says, if that happens, if they crown him, I know where I'm going to put this dagger. Right here. Cassius from bondage will deliver Cassius. I'm going to kill myself if this happens. Therein, ye gods, you make the weak most strong. Therein, ye gods, you tyrants do defeat. Nor stony tower, nor walls of beaten brass, nor airless dungeon, nor strong links of iron can be retentive to the strength of spirit. But life, being weary of these worldly bars, never lacks the power to dismiss itself. If I know this, know all the world besides, that part of tyranny that I do bear, I can shake off at pleasure. I don't have to bear any tyrant wielding power over me. I can free myself from that prison by doing away with myself. It thunders again. Casca says, so can I. So every bondman in his own hand bears the power to cancel his captivity. And why should Caesar be a tyrant then? Poor man, I know he would not be a wolf, but that he sees the Romans are but sheep. He were no lion, were not the Romans hinds, deer. Those that with haste will make a mighty fire begin it with weak straws. What trash is Rome? What rubbish? And what offal, when it serves for the base matter to illuminate so vile a thing as Caesar? But, oh grief, where hast thou led me? I perhaps speak this before a willing bondman. Oh, wait a minute. Casca, I don't know where you stand on all these things. Maybe I've said too much. Oops. Maybe you're willing that Caesar should be made king. Maybe you like that idea. Maybe you're a willing bondman. Then I know my answer must be made. But I am armed, and dangers are indifferent to me. You speak to Casca, and to such a man that is no fleeting telltale. Hold my hand, be factious for redress of all these griefs, and I will set this foot of mine as far as who goes farthest. No, you're talking to Casca. Anybody who will do something, I will go as far as that person. Cassius says, there's a bargain made. Now know you, Casca, I have moved already some certain of the noblest minded Romans to undergo with me an enterprise of honorable, dangerous consequence. I've got a plan, and I'm already canvassing some of the best and brightest in Rome, namely Brutus, to be in on this. And I do know, by this they stay for me in Pompey's porch. They're waiting for me right now. For now, this fearful night, there is no stir walking in the streets, and the complexion of the element in favors like the work we have in hand, most bloody, fiery, and most terrible. I've got some guys waiting for me at Pompey's porch. We're going to discuss this enterprise, this plan I have. And it's great because out in the storm, nobody will see us, nobody's out. And we're planning something as violent as this storm. And as he says this, in comes another guy, Cinna. Casca says, stand close a while. for here comes one in haste. Move back. Let's hide ourselves a little bit. We don't want them to see us out talking till we find out who it is. Casca says, "'Tis Cinna. I do know him by his gait. He's a friend." It's fine, Cassius. We know him. "Cinna, where haste you so?" "To find you out. Who's that? Metellus Cimber?" "No, it is Casca, one incorporate to our attempts." "Am I not stayed for, Cinna?" We find Cinna is one of the group. Cinna is one of Cassius's groups. He says, "Where are you going?" "I was looking for you." "Who's this?" "He's Casca. He's a good guy. He's in. He's in, whatever we've got planned." Cinna says, "I'm glad on it. What a fearful night is this. There's 2 or 3 of us have seen strange sights." Cassius says, "Am I not stayed for? Tell me, are they waiting? Have they gathered?" "Yes, you are." "Oh, Cassius, if you could but win the noble Brutus to our party." "Be content, good Cinna. Take this paper, and look you lay it in the praetor's chair, where Brutus may find it, and throw this in at his window, and set this up with wax upon old Brutus's statue." They're the letters that are all supposedly from various people to Brutus, saying, "Brutus, you're going to do something about this." They're going to lay them where Brutus will find them. "All this done, repair to Pompey's porch, where you shall find us. Is Decius Brutus and Trebonius there?" "All but Metellus Cimber, and he's gone to seek you at your house." "Well, I will hie, and so bestow these papers as you bade me." And he leaves to drop off these letters. That done, repair to Pompey's theater. "Come, Casca, you and I will yet ere day see Brutus at his house. 3 parts of him is ours already, and the man entire upon the next encounter yields him ours." Casca says, "Oh, he sits high in the people's hearts, and that which would appear offense in us, his countenance, like richest alchemy, will change to virtue and to worthiness." Whatever we do, if we can get Brutus in, he will give the stamp of approval to everything we do because he is so highly respected. Everyone in Rome will think if Brutus had something to do with it, it must be good. Cassius says, "Him and his worth and our great need of him, you have right well conceded. Let us go, for it is after midnight, and ere day we will wake him and be sure of him." All right, that is the end of Act 1. When you're ready to watch Act 2, just go to the next video, Act 2, and we'll read it together. Thanks.